Hey guys, welcome to another She Knows Arsenal Daily. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at Justino Tweets and at She Knows Arsenal. Yeah, we are here with another episode to talk about the most recent Arsenal news and transfer news. So make sure you guys are liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Like I've told you guys before, if you guys haven't been here before, um, this is my favorite part of the day. It's when I get to sit down and talk to you guys. Obviously, the She Knows Arsenal community has grown so much over the last year. And so what's really exciting for me is to see names that have been here since the beginning, like Matt G and Blaze, Pap. These guys have been here since the very, very beginning, and then also seeing new names pop up. So I really do appreciate all the love and support. And I hope that you guys enjoy the shows as much as I enjoy making it for you. There's about 60 of you guys already in here. So make sure you guys are liking the video again and subscribing to the channel. It really helps the channel grow. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the potential Jeremy Pino bid. There are conflicting reports on whether or not Arsenal's interest in Jeremy Pino is reliable, actually there, whether it's happening, so we'll talk about that, as well as this random report that came out today around Arsenal having talks with Tonali, which is totally out of left field. And so we'll talk about those types of things. And I think ultimately, probably what you guys want to talk about in this episode, because over the last couple of shows, you guys have kind of been putting in your thoughts and feelings on this is what direction are we actually going in? What players should we potentially be bringing in? What happens if we don't actually improve in this transfer window further than what we've already have and things like that. So we'll go through like the initial kind of headlines there and talk about how we feel about them, and then I'll just open it up to you guys and we can do a little bit of a Q&A. At the very beginning of the She Knows Arsenal channel, that's pretty much all I would do is like I would just turn on the camera and just go live and just talk to you guys and you guys would talk back. And those are like the best shows. Like those are the absolute best shows because it's like we get into conversations that I didn't even think we would, and I get to hear what you guys want to talk about. So we'll do a little bit of that today towards the end of the show. Um, let's see who's in. Saksham says, no way Tonali is coming. Sad face. Matt G says, let's do this. Tony Smith says, Jess, I love your podcast. I love making it for you guys. It's, again, the best part of my day. And yeah, being kind of like across the pond and being outside of like where, what I'm used to, this is kind of like like something that makes me feel like it's like a foundation. It's kind of like makes me feel like I'm still me, So I love doing this with you guys. Mafia Boss says afternoon, Jess. Afternoon to you as well. Zach 10 says let's go. So yeah, and again, I want to answer some questions, more towards the end after we get through the initial headlines. So if you guys put in your questions now, I'll try to star as many of them as possible. But I would just wait maybe until I'm like, hey, put in your questions so I don't miss them, if that makes sense. Samson, thank you so much for your super chat. Says awesome content, just informative and entertaining. Sometimes I wonder if you guys are like bored or not because sometimes I feel like I'm more serious than other times, and you guys if you guys have been here for a while, you guys know I can be really, really silly, so I try to show you guys as much of my personality as possible and try to fuse together the serious Jess with the silly Jess, and hopefully it comes out well, so hopefully that's what you guys are getting from all of this. Don 1 says, "Be grateful, Arsenal fans, we could be Man United, look." It's one of those where it's kind of like we've been kind of saying well, I know I've been saying that I do feel like Man United are going through something quite similar to what we went through 2 years ago, starting this whole new process and project, and it is interesting hearing them talk about it's the beginning of a process, beginning of a project. We have to, be patient and all this kinda stuff. A lot of the stuff that we were saying at the beginning with Arteta. And so it is kind of funny watching them go through it and kind of have the reality of like not having Champions League is affecting their transfer business, having no kind of plan or whatever is kind of messing them up. So it is funny to laugh at, but I'm more concerned about Arsenal than anything else. But it is funny to kind of look over my shoulder and be like, haha, so yeah, so there you go. Leopold says, "Can't wait to see you on ESPN one day." It would be amazing to be on ESPN one day, I can't lie, I don't know if I'm buttoned up enough for them, because on here, I just kinda do my thing, but I would love to be on, like, ESPN or Sky Sports or something in the future, and hopefully we get there. Lynn says, "Jess, you don't bore, you come across realistic and balanced." That's what I try to do, sometimes and, also, sometimes when I have opinions that are terrible, like, sometimes I do look back at some of my takes and I'm like, "Ooh, that was bad." I'm not afraid to say that, you know, I got it wrong or change my mind. I just try to be as honest with you guys as possible because at the end of the day, like I'm just a fan just like you guys. Crispy Rice says the thing um most of them can't cope with the idea of a rebuild. I mean, rebuilds are scary because you could get 2 or 3 or 4 years down the line and you don't get what you want. Like even with Arteta, like ultimately, like, we have to get to a destination and we have to meet the benchmarks, and up until this point, it's kinda been, he needs to get his own players. We need to get rid of these players, and we've gotten rid of some good players. I think there's this misconception that the players that we've gotten rid of have been all crap, but we know we've had some good players that maybe with a different manager, they may have worked out. But ultimately, for Arteta's project to work, we had to get rid of a lot of those players, and so what you hope for is that with all of that, like, trust, in Arteta and giving him the exact players that he wants, we get something at the end of the rainbow. There has to be some treasure there, you know what I mean? Pot of gold, whatever, and we're kinda looking for it this season, can it all click and come together and we can make sure that we qualify for Champions League and make deep runs in cups and things like that. So, it is kinda scary because at the end of the day, you're being asked to be patient, but in some moments of the process, you kind of think, "Do we have to do this? Could we have not went in a different direction? Is this really what Arsenal should be doing?" And Manchester United are a juggernaut. They are a huge club, one of the biggest in the world, if not the biggest in the world, and so at talking about rebuilds and projects with a club of that magnitude has to be somewhat scary, especially when their 2 biggest rivals in Liverpool and Manchester City are mopping up trophies left and right. So I can understand why it's scary for them, but ultimately they have to understand at this point that they need to clean house. C. Walder says, "Nah, Jess, your content is great. I used to watch literally every channel apart from AFTV. Now only watch you and FK. FK's content is absolutely amazing. And what I love about what FK has done is he has like a little niche where he does like really in-depth player profiles, and that's not something that we've really had in the Arsenal community. Some people do them, but he does them specifically, and like the way that he does it is so good, the branding, the marketing, all that kinda stuff for it, and you can tell that he puts a lot of effort and care into it, and so, yeah, a funny story about FK is that he's not very good at graphics or anything like that, and so we actually I did, like, a mini tutorial with him on Canva to try to help him so that he can get his skills up, and I haven't seen much change in, like, any of his graphics, but I have tried to show him a thing or 2, but FK is amazing. Diallo says Jess got it wrong on Nunez. Poor first touch and said he doesn't fit us. Kid is good and Jess admitted it. Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, I don't think I ever said he was crap. I did say that I didn't think that he would fit us, especially with the price being muted, mooted, because he was quite expensive. And I was just thinking to myself, if he needs some time to kind of get up to speed, if he's kind of because at Liverpool he has the ability to kinda ease his way in because they have enough good quality attackers where he doesn't have to be, like, really good right at the beginning. Where at Arsenal, he would have had to, like, really step straight in and be good, and we also don't really have the same level of creativity in terms of chance creation as Liverpool, and he needs somebody to create chances for him. So, do I think he would have been good for us? Maybe. Do I think he's a good player? Absolutely. I do think, like, trampoline touch, Uruguayan Andy Carroll calls were a little bit too early, absolutely. But I do think Gabriel Jesus kind of fits us right now because we also get the winning mentality and the Premier League proven and all that kind of stuff with Gabriel Jesus. So yeah, but at the same time, like I think Nunez is gonna be an absolute star. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that. So let's go ahead and get jump in. And you guys, FK is he is the creator of Latte Firm. So, you guys should be subscribed to that channel as well. There's almost 200 of you guys in here. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. Actually, what I'll do is I'll put his information in the description so that when you guys want to look it up, you can. I'll actually do that right now if you guys just hold on really quick because a lot of you guys are asking about it. And if you don't know about Latte Firm, you really should. It's one of the best Arsenal um, podcasts out there, really. Let's just get that, put it in the description for you. And now it's right at the top of the description box. So you guys can subscribe after you leave here. So let's go ahead and jump into it. The first thing that I do want to talk about is Yeremy Pino. We kind of talked about him yesterday when we were talking about the wingers and what Arsenal were trying to do in that department. I did see something that came out maybe an hour ago. I'll read it to you guys. Let's see. Where did I see it at? It's like sometimes, like, I just wish I would just bookmark everything and not try to just remember from my own thoughts. Um, oh, this is interesting. Okay, so Arsenal are prepared to wait until 2023 to sign Yuri Tielemans. Leicester's demands exceed what Arsenal are willing to pay, and Adu may be forced to change his stance if other teams move for the Belgian. That is coming from Football London, and that's specifically Tom Canton, that is the Gunnar Talk TV. So that's interesting as well. Not what I want to hear right now. We'll definitely talk about that in a second. So, um, but where is that report that I saw? It was like it said it kind of had all of the options that Arsenal were looking for are looking at in the winger position. Where did I see it? Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm like, wait, where did I see that at? Now it was from the Mirror, so I can do it from memory. So essentially what the Mirror said is that at the top of Arsenal's list is Leroy Sané, um, Gakpo, Neto, Pino, and Diaby. And Arsenal will look to sign one of those. Now, that's kind of like guesswork in my opinion in terms of like I could have wrote that. Like I could have wrote that those are all the people on the wish list because those are all the people that we've been linked to. So I think what's happening right now is nobody really knows what's going on. Just yesterday, Yeremy Pino was being um heavily linked to Arsenal. There was a lot of, noise around that and that Arsenal and Liverpool were really interested in Yeremy Pino and they had received a big offer from a Premier League club. And then there was also, you know, um, some rumors around a second bid going in that was supposedly from Arsenal, so that was something that was being talked about today. And then there was more reports that came out and said that we weren't interested in him. So this is coming from TD Fischals, Fischals, says sources close to Villarreal confirmed that several Premier League clubs have registered their interest in Yeremy Pino, and Arsenal are among them. Villarreal feel an offer will come before the start of La Liga, which I think is like this weekend, right? Um, so yeah. But then I also saw something that people were saying we're not interested in Yeremy Pino. So what this could be is that because I know we've been linked with him before, this could actually just be, um, you know, Liverpool and Arsenal registered interest before, and they're using those two names to try to get people to come forward, kind of drum up some some business. Because what we kind of spoke about this yesterday is that um, the situation for Villarreal is that they want to bring in Lo Celso and maybe even in Ndombele. And in order to do that, they need to sell a big player. Like they need to sell somebody that's going to bring in a huge fee. And because nobody really has registered any interest in Pau Torres or who else was it? Danjuma. They're looking at Yeremy Pino as like the next option to try to sell. It's really kind of contingent as well on Yeremy Pino actually wanting to leave because he's said to have been really comfortable there and not really looking for a move as of yet. But that's kind of the player that they're trying to push. I wouldn't say push out the door, but the one that they're trying to see if there could be a market for him. And if Arsenal and Liverpool have been interested in the past, I can see them and his agents kind of using those 2 names to try to see if they can get other teams, um, interested because those deals for Lo Celso and Ndombele are really all in the balance, and they have to move somebody on, so I can kinda see where that has come in, and when you read that report, it's worded very interestingly, it's sometimes you have to read between the lines. Sources close to Villarreal confirmed that several Premier League clubs have registered their interest in Yeremy Pino. Arsenal are among them. Villarreal feel an offer will come before the start of La Liga. So if they're saying that an offer will come in, what they're basically trying to do is maybe hurry some people along because they want to get this done before their season starts because their season starts soon. So this is one of those where he may be on the list, but not high on the list. I'm even questioning whether there is an actual list. I mean, it's just so confusing. I mean, you could say that, the reason why we don't know anything about what's going on is because it's all under wraps and Edu's being so secretive and it's a mystery and or it could just be that Arsenal are not sure if they actually want to bring in more players. I think Arteta probably wants to bring in 1 or 2 more players, but is this contingent on us selling players or selling players for a fee, moving players on, a deal at a certain price, so I'm starting to feel like I want to get okay with, maybe us not bringing players in, I wanna start getting my mind wrapped around that because with the most recent Yuri Tielemans, report that just came out like a minute ago, and then this with the confusion around the winger, um, I'm not sure I'm feeling it right now. I'm not sure that I'm feeling it. I'm feeling a little bit like, okay, if we wanna move for players, shouldn't we be doing that now? Especially because we have moved on quite a few players. So this is coming from I found it. It says Leroy Sané, Moussa Diaby, Pedro Neto, Cody Gakpo, Yeremy Pino, Jared Bowen, and Marco Asensio are currently at the top of the list of wingers for Arsenal. Arsenal see Lucas Paqueta more as a midfield player than a wide player. You know, it's like, okay, that's like everyone. So let's get a little bit more specific. Also, this is coming from 90 Min that Lyon are set to reduce the asking price of Lucas Paqueta to bargain 30 to it's that's a bargain. 33 million for Lucas Paqueta is crazy. Amid reports that Newcastle, Arsenal, and City are showing interest. Now, let's just keep it 100. If City decide that they're gonna sell Bernardo Silva, which looks like a real big possibility, if they look towards Lucas Paqueta, he's not coming to Arsenal, So I also think that's a reason why we had interest and then we backed away from it is because we couldn't get buy-in from him because if he feels like there's an opportunity for him to go to Manchester City and play for Pep, play in Champions League, play for a team that's probably gonna win at least 1 trophy this season, he'll probably do that, and so, yeah, that's kind of the latest on that, but it's just a lot of nothingness at the moment, you guys, honestly, like, it's very convoluted and a little bit, you know, what's actually going on here? If we're willing to wait until next season to try to get Yuri Tielemans on a free, basically, like, that could either be negotiating tactics from Edu to say, "Well, we're willing to wait, so you need to, bring the price down, or we're gonna just be willing to wait, and we'll just try to get him on a free." Or we actually aren't that interested in him and we're not going to bring in a midfielder. And that would be really disappointing to me, to be honest, because I just don't look at our midfield options and say, this is what's going to get us into the top 4. I do think it's Like I said yesterday, it's probably somewhere around top 5, top 6 level of midfield options. And you're really just a Thomas Partey absence or Granit Xhaka absence away from looking at that midfield and saying, "Okay, so we're really just gonna roll out with El Neni." So, I look at it and I'm just like, "Okay, I'm hoping that it's just negotiating tactics from Adu, or do, um, and not Arsenal actually thinking that it's cool to just not bring in a midfielder. That would be kinda heartbreaking. Not heartbreaking, like, that's kinda dramatic, but yeah, heartbreaking. And yeah, in terms of the wingers, it could be anybody at this point. I saw something about, Leroy Sané today. I just don't feel like that's, um really realistic. I just can't see us making it happen. This is 2 hours ago. Sky Sports Germany claims Arsenal bosses have made contact with Bayern last month for Leroy Sané, although they are reluctant to sell, having yet to see the best of him. Excuse me. So, not seeing the best of him yet. I do think there's a feeling that he's not amazing. He hasn't lit the world on fire at Bayern. But does he wanna leave? Does he actually want to leave Bayern? Would he wanna come back to England? I think he didn't really love England and wanted to go back to, his home in Germany, so I'm not sure that I'm buying the Leroy Sané stuff. Again, Pedro Neto is kind of a weird situation because, although I think he ticks all of the boxes and he's probably, like, the perfect option, Premier League proven, left-footed, can play on the right or left, um, he's gonna cost at least 60 something million, if not more. He's on a long-term contract, and I do think that Wolves are gonna look to cash in on him maybe next summer when you can get the likes of Liverpool interested in him. I mean, he's somebody that I can see Liverpool looking at to back up Salah. So that doesn't seem realistic. Yeremy Pino, there's some cloudiness around that, whether or not we're actually interested or they're using us to get other teams to come to the table. Jared Bowen, West Ham are not going to sell him. Let's keep it real. They're not going to sell him to us when they're trying to fight for a position in the top four. So that's not realistic. He's also going to cost a lot. So those options are not looking great. Also, today, it seems like Manchester United have registered serious interest in Cody Gakpo. I'm kind of okay with that. I mean, ultimately, like if Ten Hag wants a Dutch player, that Dutch player is going to go there. And I feel like he just might be a little bit too green to step straight into what we need. We need somebody that's actually going to put pressure on the starting players there, and I don't think Cody Gakpo necessarily does that. I do think he's gonna have a little bit of an adaptation period in the Premier League. And then there's Marco Asensio on that list, and I do think that that's kind of like an easy kind of link to make. We are always linked with him. And then Musa Diaby, um, that link has kind of been rubbished already, said it's just chatter, and it would cost 55 million or so to bring him in. So I'm not quite sure what's going on with the wingers. It just feels more like, you know, who knows, at this point, but we have to get somebody in that attack. You guys know how I feel about this. If you guys haven't been here before, there's 300 of you guys in chat. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. But my feeling around the attack is that when I look at it, I just think if you take Gabriel Jesus out of there, we're struggling for goals. We're struggling for that senior presence in that front line. And when you kind of see with that group, they're still young. They still feel young. They act young. They play young, and young players are inconsistent in front of the goal. And Arsenal need to be scoring at least 15 more goals this season than they did last season. So it would be in Arsenal's best interest to bring in another attacker that could add to the goal tally. And also somebody that could help Saka so he doesn't have to play every single game. Right now he's playing every single game. And I don't really see anything for Pepe, Marquinhos, or Reece Nelson at this point that would feel substantial or like an improvement. So they need to bring another attacker, but it does look also like with the attacking situation that it's very kind of like if the situation is right, if we can move on a player, if we can do that. And that's not really what I want to hear right now. So there you go. Hit the likes, you guys support the channel. Nocturnal says, I do think we need another goal scorer in attack, but I think we need a midfielder more. Um, Alcato says Pepe and Nelson must go. Jeff says, if you're good enough, you're old enough. George says, I'll catch the playback. Okay, great. And let me know in the comment section what you think. George, you're always there. Um, Let's see. Dan Brown says Nketiah looks good. I think the right wing is a bigger issue. I agree with you. CJ says I'm a bit behind. I think maybe the She Knows Arsenal community might appreciate if you've done some kind of content outside of football where we can get to know you outside of football. You guys, I'm going to try to get to that kind of stuff soon. It may not always be on the channel. It might be like on my Instagram or something like that, but I'm getting to that. I'm definitely getting to that. Thank you, CJ. I really appreciate it. TJ says, Jess, I think 60 million is a bit much. Is that for who? For who do you think that's too much for? Diaby or who? Damon says we need a winger attacker first. We need something. Is this not enough? Don One says, I want Neto. John P says Tonali is not coming, but he is a baller, number 6 and or 8, absolute midfield general. We'll get to that in just a second. Nocturnal Gunner says linked with Asensio as much as we're linked to Isco. Laugh out loud. Exactly. I think it's such an easy link to make, right? Paul says Arsenal playing hardball with Leicester. Put the price down, or we'll just get him on a free next season. I'm hoping that that's what it is. I'm like, we didn't do all this for nothing. Kafuso says get a DM, a winger, and wait on the other midfield option, January or summer. Fair enough. Don One says we should put in a bid for Tielemans now. It will rattle and piss Leicester off before our big game or our game. The one thing that I don't really like about all of this waiting is that there are several teams. Like if you look at what happened with Liverpool the other day, my biggest fear is that like we know that Tielemans was really interested in going to Liverpool before he was ever interested in going to Arsenal. And so with Thiago out for six weeks, maybe Liverpool start looking at him thinking, okay, well, we could throw maybe 30 million at this and get it done. And if Liverpool are in the conversation, we're not getting him. So I think waiting this late is also a little bit risky. For Arsenal, of course, I do think that they'll be notified or whatever if anybody else is interested and willing to put in a bid. But all this waiting is just kind of like, come on, like we got to be moving on this, right? Reggie Perry says, isn't it easier to go to 8 isn't it easier to go to 8 from 10 than 6 in our system from 8? Than 6 in our system from 8. Well, the 6th position is the most difficult one to play. So I just don't see anybody in the team right now that can replicate what Thomas Partey does. Even Thomas Partey struggles to do the Thomas Partey role sometimes. So for me, yeah, like I think it's easier. I don't think it's gonna be easy for anybody that plays there now to become the 6 if Thomas Partey was not there, and I think you instantly would see us move into a double pivot to make up for that because Thomas Partey basically plays 2 roles. Barry Burns says, "Won't happen, but would love us to go get Olise, but him and Palace are happy with one another, plus currently out injured." Yeah, I think he's one of those that will end up at, like, Chelsea in a couple years, I don't see him coming to Arsenal, especially not now, he's not gonna have to compete for a spot with Crystal Palace, but, he'll have to compete at Arsenal, and I just have this weird feeling that we'll see him at Chelsea at some point. Crispy Rice says maybe London as opposed to Manchester, though. Yeah, for Sane, maybe. But yeah, like I just don't see Sane for some reason. But Arsenal are also kind of like we want to get our number one target or nothing. And so I can see a scenario where they're looking at players that may, in a year be more available and like not getting somebody like kind of like how we did with Vlahovic in January. We decided not to get anybody else because we were looking at other players, or the other players that we were looking at didn't really fit. But at the same time, like not getting another attacker and not getting another midfielder will drastically change how I feel about how the season will go. I don't think we have enough. I don't think we have enough to say we're going to be nailed on for fourth. I think we're going to be fighting for fourth and could potentially finish fifth or sixth, even though we're really close. And so not bringing in those 2 players, I do think would change a lot. And, for Arsenal, it just it doesn't feel like it, maybe it just feels like that right now because we don't know what's going on, and we're still moving players on and stuff like that, and maybe we wanna do something at the very, very end. It would not be an Arsenal transfer window if we did not wait until deadline day to do something, but it's just annoying, you know? And you never really know as well, like, there may be Leicester might be like, "We're not gonna entertain anything this week because we're gonna play you guys can put in your bid after that." Because if I'm Leicester, I don't want Arsenal to put in a bid now, right before the game. I'd prefer them to do it after our game, if that makes sense. Crispy Rice says, "Vieira, more of a 10 than an 8, though." Um, I'm not gonna like I think it's also you have to look and see where players play when they're actually playing, and so he is kind of like a 10, but he even said himself that he plays mostly like Odegaard, and Odegaard does not play like a number 10. And when I was watching him play, I thought that he came deep a lot. He was on the left and on the right and in half spaces and kinda doing a lot of free kind of roaming. So I do think he's somebody that will play the 8, but he will contribute to attack and he'll do a bunch of different things, and that's what we need. We need players that can operate in different areas and don't have to just be nailed onto one side. I do think one of Odegaard's limitations is that he's so left-footed that he just kind of has to be, like, on that right-hand side. Vieira does a lot more, like, in the pockets, picking up the ball from center backs, playing balls in behind from deep. He does a lot of different things. So I think Vieira can play the 8 role. I get that we're kind of worried about how small he is. Um, but if Bernardo Silva can do it, if Santi Corzola can do it, why can't Vieira do it? Joshua says, "We ain't getting Yuri anymore." Jeff says, "I think we have enough now. However, we will move if that special player becomes available." I don't really believe in the special player. I think that there's 1, 2, 3, 4 players that can improve you significantly. Like there's more than one target. The special player thing doesn't really fly with me if it's not a really, really special player that you can actually get. I think Arsenal are in a position where there's probably 3 or 4 players in each position, in the midfield position and in the wing position that could do what we want them to do. So the special player thing doesn't really rock with me. But, I get that some people really buy into the idea that we shouldn't buy anybody unless they're our number 1 target. I don't really buy that, but some people do. TJ says Odegaard needs to take more shots. He definitely should have scored versus Palace. And Reggie says Tielemans might be a bit unsettled playing us this weekend. If he does, he needs to kick the ball in the back of his own net. Let me know it's real. No, let me know you really wanna come. Kick the ball in the back of your own net. Do what you did against Spurs. Drop your value right down to the ground? That's how I'll know it's real. There's 330 of you guys in here. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Get in the chat box. Let me know how you guys are thinking and feeling and all those great and wonderful things. William says, definitely Adu and Arsenal are right not to overpay for a player with less than a year left on his contract. If Tielemans is your guy, sign pre-contract. Fair enough. Bilal says, I think a midfielder is more important than an attacker. And if we get Tonali, I'd be gassed. He is so good, can back up Partey and upgrade for Xhaka. So let's go ahead and jump into the Tonali stuff. I have so much to say about this because I think I'm a little bit disappointed in some of the Arsenal fans. I think sometimes we're so quick to want to be self-deprecating that we don't just let things cook. So make sure you guys are liking the video. But the Tonali stuff, here's the thing is that I know that like some people look at reports from Italy as just like total bullshit, but I've told you guys this before. Just because we hold talks with a player, holding talks with a player could literally just be messaging his agent and saying, "What would it take to get your client here?" Or talking to whoever's the head at Milan. Is that who is it? Isn't the head at Milan the guy that was at Arsenal before? You guys, I'm like honestly, like so I before I left, I had COVID. And, before I came over here, I had COVID, and I kid you not, like, I used to be really sharp at remembering every single name and all that kinda stuff. I've had, like, brain fog ever since then. I There's just names that are, like, on the tip of my tongue that I just can't quite grasp onto. It's crazy, but I'm pretty sure whoever's running AC Milan, it's also with, this he used to be at Arsenal, right? But, you guys will say it in the comment section, but it could literally just be a asking them, "What's the deal with Tonali?" If we were to put in a bid of how much what would get you guys to the table to consider it? That could be what talks are, and I do think there's this thing where it's like, I don't think we're gonna get the player, so it never happened. I think the correct way, or not the correct way, but the way to think about it is, I don't think it will happen, but maybe we just held talks, or maybe we just asked what it would take to get the player. I don't think we'll get Tonali. The report said that he's considered untouchable unless a bid of 55 or 45 million pounds comes in, and then they would start to consider it. Every player has a price. That's the reality, is that every player has a price, I believe. So if you can get them to the table, you probably have to put a big chunk of money out there, but there's always kind of a chance, right? And so it could have just been, maybe we're interested in several players at Milan. Maybe we wanted to see how much it would cost to bring in Leao or Tonali or Benacer. And so we just asked for the price of all of 3 of those players, and then his agent went to whatever publication, Calcio, Mercado, and put it out there. Those things happen all the time, so we don't know how serious our interest is, but during the transfer window, I'm sure Adu talks to a lot of directors of football, a lot of agents, a lot of clubs, and just gets a feel for what it would take to get to the table. So I just can't stand this whole, like, I think they're just lying. They just made it up. And then on top of that, it's like, then they attack the Arsenal account that put it out there, because I think we have, like, this sense of, like, we don't wanna be rejected, or we don't want embarrassment or something like that. There's nothing embarrassing about a dude going to Milan and saying, "How much would it cost? Like, what would get you to the table?" It's amazing to me how many Arsenal fans complain about good players, wanting us to attract different players or go after really good players. And then when it seems like a do is trying to do that, we get upset. And I know we don't like rejection, and we don't like that feeling of, like, because obviously rivals get a hold of it and say, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you guys think you would get Tonali." But it's not a matter of that. I think it is the right thing for a dude to ask how much it would cost. And that's all I really see in this report. I don't see anything else other than we inquired, and that's it. Sandro Tonali is a 22-year-old defensive midfielder who Arsenal are tentatively linked with around 2 years ago. Now it seems the name is back on the wish list. Currently valued about 45 million pounds and under contract until 2026. It would not be an easy transfer for Arsenal to complete for a number of reasons, but the two clubs are reported to have met to discuss the player. Calcio Mercado report that if a bid in the region of 55 million euros was to be received, Milan could sell him in order to purchase 2 players. But they also describe him as a cornerstone, and call him untransferable. So mixed messages over the eventualities. It does seem as if Arsenal are looking to bring in a defensive midfielder. Um, Regardless, I'd be surprised if we ended up bringing in Tonali. So that's kind of like my thoughts on it. And I do think Arsenal need to be looking at defensive midfielders, but they can't just bring in anybody. They can't just look at anybody. That position is so specific. And so if you're looking for a successor for Thomas Partey, who's 30 years old, and without talking about the elephant in the room that we all know is there, just an absence to Thomas Partey, or him just aging, or whatever it is that keeps him out of the team, the player coming in has got to be of a certain standard. They have to be able to not only defend, but dictate play from deep. They have to be able to receive the ball on the half turn from center backs and be so good at beating the press that the opposition just decides not to press them anyway. They have to have the ability to pass between the lines and to travel with the ball at their feet. It's a very difficult position to play as a single six in Arteta's system. And right now it's a single point of failure. I do think Arsenal need to be looking for a successor, but again, they can't just bring in anybody. It has to be a player of a certain quality. Tonali is to me like a great player. I do think that he's easy on the eye. He's technically gifted. He's kind of a little bit he has a little chip on his shoulder. He likes to get stuck into tackles. He's not the most athletic, but again, neither is Thomas Partey. Like Thomas Partey is athletic but not quick or strong or anything like that. He's just more of he has physical presence, but I don't really view him as like a Basuma, or a Caicedo. The two of them are more like athletes and, they can kind of run you down and stuff like that. He's a little bit more of a like he's more of a technical player, more of a Rodri type, that's going can get stuck in, but ultimately on in big distances, you're not going to be able to keep catch him. Ivan Gazidis, that's his name. So yeah, I think with this one, we just have to wait and see. But what I like um is that it seems like Arsenal are trying to look ahead to see if we can fill in that position. I don't think we'll do it this summer. I think it's too much to do right now. But in the near future, like in January or next summer, that position needs to be addressed 110% right now. Can't really see Sambi filling in right now. He's kind of learning how to just be an Arsenal footballer in the eight position, and El Neni's not good enough. And you can't just bring in anybody again. So yeah, for me, I don't think it's something that will happen, in this window, but Arsenal just Arsenal might just be future planning, and that's not wrong, and we don't always need to be so self-deprecating, and it's always just, "Oh my gosh, they're lying. They're just making it up." Journalists don't usually just make things up. They have to get a little bit of information from somewhere. Sometimes they fill in the narrative and tell the story from their perspective. But I would think at the very minimum, Arsenal would probably at least ask Milan how much it would cost to bring in Tonali. I don't think he leaves though, because I think he's like a huge Milan guy. And if he were to leave, it would be later on in his career to a team that's in Champions League about to win things. So there we go. Joshua says, "Are we even signing someone else this window?" I don't know. I'm not sure. Hopefully we do. George Barry says Patino starting for Blackpool today. That's amazing. Definitely gonna tune into a little bit of that maybe. To see what the deal is with Charlie there. I see people saying that he's the heir to that sixth position. I just don't think he's anywhere near it at the moment. I do think we project upon these young players a little bit too much, and not everybody is Bukayo Saka. Most of these players have to go on loans and kind of grow up a little bit. And so I wouldn't imagine seeing Charlie Patino near the first team for maybe two more seasons at the very least. Um, Chris Frazier says, "Why didn't we just pay the 25 million for Basuma? Missed opportunity, in my opinion." I think if you just look at it from the perspective of how much it costs and the position that he plays, it looks like a missed opportunity. But again, talking about that number 6 role, Basuma can't play that role like Thomas Partey. He just can't. He's not somebody that is going to receive the ball off of the center backs and beat the press and all that kind of stuff. He's not going to dictate play from deep. He doesn't have a great pass on him. He's more of a ball winner. And so with Spurs, they're going to play Basuma plus Højbjerg or Basuma plus Bentancur or something like that. Højbjerg plus Bentancur. They're going to play with some sort of pivot, but you're not going to see Højbjerg or Basuma playing in a single pivot because neither of them have the passing ability. And so when you look at like what Arteta always talks about is the specificity of a position, you can't just bring anybody in. And so if you look at types of players that we've looked at for that number 6 position, it's been Ruben Neves, it's been, maybe a player like Tonali, but it's never really been a destroyer type central defensive midfielder. So although the deal looks great and it looks like a missed opportunity because he's a CDM and we need one, but we need the right one. And so that's the kind of position that I do kind of understand where people are coming from, where people are coming from with that. Magzino says Patino is a special talent, to be fair. He is special, but we just need to wait. I do see somebody who has a lot of ability, but doesn't have the body yet. Um, Gunnerwork says, I have to imagine we're signing at least one more player this summer. We have still we still have players to offload, and the end of the transfer window will be a bit crazy. Anything can happen. Once they cancel Bellerin's contract and Pablo Marie goes, the last two players they are Pepe and Ainsley Maitland-Niles. So for me, it's kind of like, okay, I don't think Pepe is going to um I don't think Pepe sorry, you guys. I don't think Pepe will be a reason why we don't bring in a midfielder, but I wonder if Ainsley Maitland-Niles will be it. I wonder if he'll be the reason why. If so, that's just so far-fetched for me. Send him out on a loan and just, I don't know, you really can't because he only has 1 year left on his deal, but, you know, I just feel like Arsenal have got to be smart. They cannot let a season be derailed because we did not address midfield, and I look at and this is not we're not in as serious of a situation as PSG were in terms of needing to rebuild that midfield. But you look at the job that they've done to address midfield when they said our midfield is weak, so we're gonna bring in like 3 midfielders. And on good deals is where I don't we don't Renato Sanchez is specific because I think that he's so injury prone, he wouldn't be worth it for Arsenal, but he's worth it for them because they have enough depth. But they have Verratti and Paredes. They've gotten rid of Idrissa Gueye, I think. Um, but they brought in Vitinha, Fabian Ruiz, Renato Sanchez, and one other player, I think. So in their midfield. And I just think to myself, like, why can't Arsenal be that aggressive with their midfield? I think the reason why we're not aggressive with the midfield and why we bring in a Sambi and keep it Elneny and kind of leave Xhaka in the starting lineup is because we're kind of okay with that group. And I feel like it's holding us back. I feel like it's holding us back. If we could just bring in another midfielder, that could actually put some pressure on Granit Xhaka, I think the whole level of this group would go up. And we're just missing out on a little bit of something, something. So, yeah, that's where I kind of am with, all of that. I just feel like when you really want to address something, like if we would address midfield like we have center back over these last couple of years, we probably have a really good midfield because we continuously buy center backs, but we don't really address midfield. We are really just kind of avoid that pivot with our lives. That pivot does not get touched. It is Thomas Partey and Granit Xhaka, and that's it. We brought in Odegaard replacement or um, an Odegaard substitute in Vieira before we've addressed backup to Thomas Partey or somebody better than Granit Xhaka. So I think like actions speak louder than words. You guys go ahead and get your questions in now. We'll do about 15 minutes of questions or so. So yeah. Renzo says you're absolutely right about addressing the midfield. I just think it's one of those where when you want to address it, it's obvious that you're addressing it. Like, it's like you do the business. And when we want to do something, we do it. And so I get the feeling that generally we are okay with what we have in those positions. And I feel like it's holding us back, man. For a club that has been known for midfielders, Vieira, Gilberto, um, Cesc, uh, Diaby, Ozil, all the midfielders that we had, Santi Corzola, Jack Wilshere, Ramsey. You can go just back and forth about all the midfield talent that we've had over the years. And then for Adu and Arteta to be midfielders, and then for them to look at that midfield and say that's good enough, it's wild. So yeah. Petite, yeah, Petite, it's wild. Pap says, Jess, Zinchenko is going to be a Xhaka replacement, and Tavares will be the next Saliba next year. We didn't really address this yesterday, but Nuno is gonna cook at Marseille, isn't he? Like, and that's the difference between a player that's just raw and needs more time than a bad player. And I think that we got that mixed up last season. Some of the fan base was quick to really write Nuno off as like this terrible player. I think in terms of bringing him in and thinking that he was ready to deputize for Tierney was a little bit too early. It was a little bit too early. But in terms of does he have all the raw talent to be something really, really special? He does. Um, does he have the what it takes, like, up here, like, the calmness and the footballing IQ to do what Arteta wants in the future? I don't know, but I think there's a lot of teams out there in Europe that would look at a player like him and say, "I can make him into our Alphonso Davies." Now, before you cook me, because I know people are, you said he's like Alphonso Davies." I'm saying he has a lot of those same attributes that Alphonso Davies has, and basically what Bayern Munich does is they just have 3 basic center backs. They play with kind of like a system that we do. Um, and then they let him do his thing. He's a lot more defensively, positionally aware than Nuno Tavares, but it could be taught, and it could be there's ways that you can play to mitigate those flaws, but what you could potentially get in offense, like from what he could give you is so dangerous. Is so dangerous. He's 6'1", rapid, can play with both feet, and when he hits the target, it usually goes in the goal. So I think Nuno Tavares is going to be so, so good at Marseille. I'm really looking forward to see how he grows. And yeah, I think he's going to be really good for them. Um, but yeah, he's doing really well already. And then Balogun scored a goal as well for Reams. And the thing about Balogun is that he really just needs some time to grow into the player that he's gonna be. I don't think we quite know who he is yet, but Balogun is so, so talented, and so I like that they both took loans, that they're getting a lot of playing time, but I like it specifically that Balogun didn't just go to a championship team. I do think it could benefit him to just be in a different country and just do his thing. So yeah, we'll see where he is at the end of the season, but I'm really happy for the two of them, and I think they're both going to be really, really good. Um, Brook Norton Cuffy also, he signed a new deal, and he looks like he's going to be going on a championship loan. And then you have Charlie Patino, who's out on loan, and I think those are the next four that we'll see potentially come back into the team and really fill in some spaces. Brook Norton Cuffy, if he does really well in the championship, we may not have to buy a right wing, or a right back. Charlie Patino might be able to fill in the El Neni role next season if he does really well. So it's all about how close they are to the first team after this loan. Maybe they need another one, maybe not. So we have some really interesting talent that's out on loan right now. And so I'm excited to see what happens with them. Let's see. Make sure you guys get your questions in. I saw Yo-Yo ask me who is going to be the first manager sacked this season. Let's see. Um, I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with. Oh my gosh! I'm gonna go with. I don't know. I'm thinking. Let me look because I want to say Frank Lampard. I really do want to see. I want to say Frank Lampard, but they're buying some. They're bringing in some players that might really help him out. You know, um, I have an idea of what I wanna say, but I just wanna look at every team first to make sure I'm not missing out anybody. So I'll tell you, Hasenhüttl, I think Southampton are in danger of going down, and also I think it's about time for them to maybe look at something else. I do think they've shafted him over the years and not brought him in good enough players, but Hasenhüttl, I think is gonna be stressed out this season. Uh I don't think they'll sack Gerrard, but I don't think he's gonna do as good as people are making it out to seem. I think Bruno Lage could be in trouble as well, and so I'm gonna go with Hasenhüttl or Bruno Lage. I think with Wolves, unless they really start scoring goals, like, they're in trouble, and Bruno Lage has not really made a lot of changes with that team from what we saw with Nuno. They still really struggle to score goals, they're still a little bit defensive. He's just I haven't seen enough change in Wolves, and they may need more recruitment, but ultimately, I think that they may struggle this season. They had kind of like a high point last season and really kinda tanked towards the end, and I'm not really seeing much change from them this season. So I think Bruno Lage or Hasenhüttl might be the 2 looking, a little rank at the beginning, but, yeah, those 2 are like I don't know about them. I don't know about them. Bruno Lage is an ass, by the way, as well. Like, every single time I see him, I'm just like, "You got a little mouth on you, and you got a lot of nerve. Like, who are you?" You know? And the way that he was talking about us and all this kinda stuff, I'm just like, "You need to worry about you." You need to worry about you, and I didn't like him talking to Jesse Marsh the way that he did the other day, so, wouldn't mind seeing him get sacked. Um, I don't like him very much. Dan Brown says that Wolves squad is average. I think they had a good run of form where they were kind of like, they were able to nick that 1-0, but no team is really good if they can't win at home. And I thought it's very strange that they can win away from home because they could sit back and just try to nick a goal. But at home they were atrocious. And that's really what killed them off at the end of the season. So I think with them, they're still kinda set up in that Nuno structure. They still haven't really addressed goals. It's wild to me. That Fabio Silva guy has not really worked out. Jimenez, a player that a lot of Arsenal fans really overrated, has been crap. So I think with Wolves, like, they may need to sell a player or 2 and bring some new players in and kinda rejig that team because it like Don Juan has said, it's gone stale. It's gone rank. Um Let's see. It's gone stale. But yeah, they have gotten Guedes, which is good for them, but it also I still don't see that being like the game changer. They still need something else. They need something different in the midfield as well, and it doesn't help that Wolves are Everton are pinching off their players and like it's just a weird dynamic because I know like Everton's DOF used to be Wolves DOF, and so there's a weird thing going on with them. Like, yeah, it might be Ralph, but I would take a look at Bruno Lage as well. Um, let's see what else are you guys saying. Put your questions in. Um, let's see. Tactical Tommy, um, Ralph Hasenhüttl. I actually don't think Tuchel will get sacked unless Chelsea are somewhere in 6th or 7th. I think they have to be like way off of it. They're firmly in like right now without any sort of reinforcements beyond what they've done so far. They are in the top 4 race. They're not near it. I think Spurs are up in front of them. I hate to say it. I think Spurs are beyond them now in terms of they have the best front 3 in the league. That's difficult for me to say. It makes me wanna throw up, but Spurs have the best front 3 in the league. They don't they have a good structure behind them. They seem like they're going in this direction where Chelsea has kind of plateaued a little bit and haven't really found that next level. They struggled to beat Everton away from home, I thought. Just to win off of a penalty was a little bit like, and Everton had some moments where they could have punished Chelsea, but I think they'll do enough of that this season to be in and around the top 4, but they haven't done enough in the transfer market yet to secure this 3rd place spot that a lot of people feel like they have secured. But if they're floundering around 6th or something like that, I do see him getting sacked. But I still think it's Bruno Lage or Hasenhüttl or early doors for me. Like they're the ones that I'm looking at. Blue says, I don't think so. I think we are looking a lot better. The way he's tossed out players that don't work is proof enough. Wenger never did that. Oh, you're talking about Arteta? This is Arteta's year. Like he has to either shit or get off the pot, right? Frank says, "Thank you so much for your question." By the way, says, "What's Tommy got to do to get his place back? Because that back 4 is solid." Well, I don't think it's as solid as people are making out to seem. I'm not gonna lie. As soon as Tierney came in, I felt a lot more comfortable. My comfort blanket, I had it wrapped up. I was like, "Oh my gosh, Tierney," because Zinchenko defensively is not great. But again, when we're playing at home against teams that we feel comfortable in possession against, it's not, Vieira's, um, beat 'em up type Crystal Palace team, then maybe Zinchenko looks a lot better. Not saying that Zinchenko did not have a good debut. I thought that generally he was fine. Just defensively, he was who I expected him to be. But Tommy, what he has to do to get back in the team is be freaking fit. When I hear these questions about ESR, have we forgotten about him? Why is he always getting forgotten? He gets forgotten because he doesn't play enough. He's not fit enough. He's always injured. So for Tommy, he has to be fit first and foremost. But I do think with Ben White, because he's such a big part of Arteta's ethos, and I do think Arteta really rates Ben White a lot. I mean, if you think about how much Ben White played last season, he was really the general back there. So even though I do think Arteta probably does know in the back of his head that he has to leave Saliba alone, he has to put Saliba, he has to make sure that Saliba has that right center back spot. I do think that Tomiyasu has opened up a door through injury for Arteta to kind of have his cake and eat it too, to to satisfy Saliba enough so that we can get him on a new deal and also play Ben White. So Tomiyasu, I do think, has a difficult journey ahead to get back into the team. Not like so hard that it's like locked off, but this is what we want. Like, I think Tomiyasu will look at the situation just like Tierney's looking at the situation and say, you know what? I need to work a little bit harder. And the two of them are probably two of the most hardworking players in our team. They're two of the most professional. They just have injury issues. So I think the two of them will take that as, a an opportunity to really, put their foot down and try to get their spots back. But there's plenty of games, to go around for those two to be involved. Tamiyasu also can play off of the left-hand side. And I do think that, you look at some really difficult games, Spurs away, Manchester City away, um, and Liverpool away, where you might want to go with something like Ben White, Saliba, Gabriel, and Tomiyasu on the left. If Tierney's not 100% and you don't want Zinchenko to get killed, you might want to go with something like that. Then if you have a more solid back four, you can actually play more creative eights. Maybe take Granit Xhaka out, play Zinchenko or something like that. So there's some things that you can do to get Tommy in the team, but I think Tomiyasu will have enough minutes. I think he'll work hard to get back into the team. But through injury, which is not all his fault, I don't think Arsenal should have listened to him when he said he was okay to play against Liverpool, because that's ultimately where the first sin was made right then, was rushing him back against Liverpool when he was clearly not fit. So we rushed him back a couple of times and now he's been out for a lot longer. So, through injury, it's opened up the avenue for Ben White to kind of solidify that spot. And so we'll see what happens with Tomiyasu, Vieira, Tierney, what happens with them. But, if we look at our schedule coming up, and let's Um, Crystal Palace, Leicester, Bournemouth, Fulham. Fulham all of a sudden ain't looking all that easy to me. But we'll be at home and they might be off their little high and we'll be able to play. But you look at maybe Fulham as an opportunity to maybe, or even Bournemouth away, to maybe see what Tomiyasu is looking like, see what Tierney's looking like. And also you can give them maybe 20 minutes at the end of the game and ease them into it to see where they're kinda at, but Tomiyasu's gonna have to work for his spot, and if he's not fit, what can he do? You know, um, players have to be fit. Um, is there people spamming you guys or not? Or no? Um, Elliot Roberts says, "What's your opinion on Yeremy, Pino? Is he the winger answer?" Is he okay, so it depends on what you're expecting. I think there's some Arsenal fans that would feel perfectly comfortable with a young player, young talented winger like, Yeremy Pino coming in, 19 years old, has enough, experience at the top level where it's not like bringing in he's above Marquinhos, probably in terms of level, but he's not so good that Saka's not under, like, immediate threat. There was a lot of, like, this anxiety in the fan base about what's gonna happen with Saka when we were linked with Rafinha, and so I think for a lot of people, this feels like a more comfortable choice. He is left-footed, plays on the right-hand side, can play off of the left. He's a hard worker, good presser, is tactically astute, the type of player that Arteta probably would like and would fit nicely into our system, but also doesn't come straight in and is like on Saka's ass. So if that's what you're looking for, I think what he does is he keeps your floor, he ups the floor of the team because you don't have that drop off when you bring in like a Pepe or a Marquinhos or somebody like that. So you kind of keep the levels up there so it helps your floor, but he doesn't up the ceiling of the team. A Rafinha ups the ceiling of the team. Sane ups the ceiling of the team. Gnabry ups the ceiling of the team. So for me, I would look more for a player like that. That's what I'm looking for, is a player that's going to take us into, we have secured top 4 with this player because we know we have enough goals. I am still worried about us being able to score goals this season with what we have so far, because as we saw with Martinelli, who obviously made up for it because he scored the goal, the first goal against Crystal Palace, but they're gonna miss sitters. They're gonna miss easy opportunities because they're still learning how to do their thing, and I don't imagine that it'll be any different for Yeremy Pino. So, is he the answer for me? No, but is the answer for some Arsenal fans that want somebody that keeps the level pretty much the same, but allows Saka to still be the star? Yeah. So that's kind of my answer for that. Oh, there's like a one of those little weird dating site things. I got it, guys. I got it. Um, Kafus Kaf Kafus Kafuso says Diaby ups the level. Let's see. People are agreeing with C. Walder. Let's see if I can find what she said. I don't see what C. Walder said. Trying to see. I don't see it. Hakeem says, personal question. How's the UK treating you? Never been, so I'm curious. So it's been about 2 weeks. Um, so funny, like, if you guys were here yesterday, I was so upset by what was going on with the Amazon guy. I wanted my packages because he had the trash can, the little trash cans that go in the bathrooms, as well as some shooting equipment, like some cords and, like, things that I needed, in order to make the space a lot better. And he also had my coffee maker. And I'm the kind of person that without my coffee, I don't want to speak. Don't speak to me. I'm not happy. I need my coffee. And so for him to call and then for me to answer and him to go click and be speeding off, it pissed me off yesterday. So today I sat there next to the window so I could see when he rolled up. And when he rolled up, I poked my head out the window and I said, "Are those for Jessica?" And he said, "Yes." And I ran down there and I was like, "Give me my stuff." So now that I have some of the stuff that I need, things are actually really good. Like, the UK is cool. Like, I told you guys, I've met a lot of people that I've known from online, and they're exactly how they are online, which is great. Met a lot of the people from the terrace, KJ, Anita, Patrick, Colleen, so many of the terrace people, Tom Little, uh, Daniel, everybody. So I met a lot of those guys, and I'll be doing like some stuff with Gimme Sport starting like this week as well, like starting to get that going with creating content for them and going out. And also, trying to get my name out there and increase my profile. So, it's been good. Like in terms of work, it's been good, and learning the city and getting comfortable. The time zone thing is still kinda kicking my ass, I can't lie, like, sometimes I stay up until 2 and 3 in the morning and don't wake up until, like, 10, which is not me. I'm a early sleeper and early riser, so that's been a little bit strange, but other than that, like, things have been good, things have been good. The UK is great. Obviously, it's a lot of it has to do with the weather being kind of, like, amazing right now, and once it gets cold, ask me again, but now that I have my coffee maker, I'm good, y'all, so but thanks for asking. Thanks for asking. Um, let's see. Tony says going to a game soon. So I haven't quite worked that out yet because for the football terrace, I'm gonna be doing a lot of the match reactions for them, so I have to kind of figure that out. But as soon as I figure that out, I'm gonna try to get as many um games locked in as I can. I actually met Lee Judges. He's the absolute nicest person on the planet. That guy is absolutely like the sweetest guy ever. And he was like, oh, talking to me about games and stuff like that. So I'll get it hooked up. But I do want to go to, and I'm going to go to the US women versus the England women coming up. Definitely going to go to that and going to start trying to see if I can get to some of the Arsenal women's games. So working on that. And yeah, those are like my main plans so far. One of the things that I'm really want is to be able to go to and cover the Champions League final or the Europa League final. So those are things that I kind of wrote in my goal, notebook before I left. And I'm like trying to, if you guys don't know, like manifestation and stuff, trying to manifest that kind of stuff into existence because that's why I'm here. I want to be close to the game. And if I get to travel and cover football matches, like I'm the absolute luckiest person in the world. So yeah, those are some of the things that I wanna do, but I'm working on the games for sure. Um, Don One says, "Be careful, Jess. Lee Judges is a charmer." Every time I see him, all I think about is he's done it again. Like that was just pure comedy. I freaking love it. Lynn says, "Jess, are you going to the Hybrid Squad live show in September when Sophie comes over?" Absolutely. Like I love Sophie. I have met her in person several times. Like Sophie is the sweetest. Like she's so nice and just so chill. And when she comes over, I'll definitely be hitting her up and making sure I get to her live show. So yeah. Let's see. Rashid says, "I'm happy for you, Jess. Your channel will blow up this year." So yeah, like, okay. I want to tell you guys something, but I also want to like keep it on the low. But what I will say is you will see something from me soon that's big. That's, like, such a weird way to say it, but I wanna keep it kind of a secret, but yeah, like, something soon. Let me see. Um, let me see. When is it coming out? When is it coming out? Um, yeah, you'll see something big from me soon. Um, it may or may not be on August 11th. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. So, yeah. Um, so yeah. Uh, Cliffhanger, I'm so bad at those too. I'm like, yeah, hopefully y when you guys see it, you guys will be like, "Yes," so yeah, you'll see something big from me. Um in terms of like collabing with AFTV and stuff like that, um, I'm working on getting some guests. Obviously I'll have the guys from Arsenal Vision on soon. Um, trying to work on maybe James coming back, trying to get Lee on the channel. I've been trying for months to get Curtis on the show. He blanks me every single time, so not sure if I can get him, but I'll try to get more people from like other channels on as well. 'Cause I know you guys like that kind of stuff. So yeah. Um, in terms of who will I support with the US women and England women, I'm gonna go for my girls. Gotta support the US women's national team. But I gotta say, after watching England in the Euros, I am scared. I am scared. I do think they're really, really good. So I will definitely you know, be looking forward to that. Let's see. Any more questions, you guys, before we get out of here? Don't want to go too long, but maybe if I see one more question, I will answer it. Let's see. Have I tried fish and chips? Absolutely. I love fish and chips, but it has to be really good. Yeah, it can't just be like soggy and stuff like that. It's gotta be crispy. You gotta bite into it and be like crisp. You know, love it. Love it. Um, Blaze asks, Jess, what Arsenal need to do to not lose control of the game possession in the second half? Do you think with our midfield, can we improve the control of the game with possession? Um, I think what happens is I do think the reason why we lose possession in games is when the opposition turns it up on us and starts to press us, there are certain players in our midfield that can hack it, and don't want to receive the ball. What basically happens is teams will only press you if they feel like you're gonna be shook. If you're shook one, they will keep pressing you. And what usually happens with like Thomas Partey in particular is that they'll press him a couple times and he'll go past them and then they'll stop pressing him and then all of a sudden you have space in midfield to play. What happens with Arsenal is that they don't press Thomas Partey, but what they do is they press upon Martin Odegaard. And once they shut that door, Arsenal cannot connect the play from the defense to the attack. He is the release valve. Granit Xhaka is more of the kind of like a circulator, kinda, and he doesn't like to receive it in traffic either. He does alright, but ultimately, like, if you're gonna press onto somebody, Granit Xhaka or Odegaard will probably be your best bet. When Granit Xhaka gets it, he tends to pass in the similar patterns, the same patterns as usual, but Odegaard is really kind of like our creative beacon. In this team, if you have Granit Xhaka as your number 8, you have one creative outlet, and that's Martin Odegaard. And so once they shut him down, we're pretty much dead in the water because we also don't have another way of creating chances or getting from defense to attack without building through the middle. Now, sometimes we can go up the wings, that works okay, but our best way is when they press upon Thomas Partey a couple times, then they back off of him, and then Partey can get into the midfield and get it to Odegaard. Odegaard's in space, and then he can get it to Saka or Martinelli or Gabriel Jesus. And so that's ultimately why we lost, the game in the midfield in Crystal Palace. They pressed hard and really swarmed the midfield, and we were not about to play through there. So we did a lot of whacking it up the sides and a lot of just whacking it, and there wasn't a lot of, our players are not comfortable in small spaces in midfield, and the only way you can get them not to press you, that's why they don't really press Manchester City, they don't really press Liverpool like that, is because they know if you press them too much, they will get by you and then it's done. And also, Liverpool and Man City have other ways of getting through. Man City usually just use their passing around you, but Liverpool also have big switches from their defenders to the attackers, and they get a lot of second balls, and we don't do a good job of that when Ben White or Saliba or Gabriel, when they whack it up there, we don't tend to win a lot of second balls because when we're under pressure and we're playing that way, Granit Xhaka and Thomas Partey tend to sit back, so they don't gamble to get second balls. So we have a little bit of an issue there. If we're not going to be able to play through our midfield, we have to be brave enough to win second balls off of Saka and Martinelli, kind of backing up into the defenders and kind of scrapping for those balls. We don't tend to do a lot of that, or we need to have press resistant midfielders in those 3 positions that can kind of get past their press or be so press resistant that they just don't press them at all. So that's why we lost possession or the kind of like lost our way in that game against Palace because once they pressed upon us, it was kind of like done from there. And it didn't really help that they just all kind of had poor games on the ball, Odegaard and Thomas Partey in particular. But that's why I think it's really important to bring in another press resistant midfielder because Odegaard and Granit Xhaka are not press resistant. And so what can you really do? How can Thomas Partey get the ball to our attackers or start that flow through midfield if Odegaard and Granit Xhaka can't beat the press? So that's why I am a big advocate of bringing in somebody like Tielemans, who is kind of press resistant in that way. And that's also why I also didn't think it would be that bad of an idea to bring in Artur as an additional midfielder because he's somebody that you can't get the ball off of him you know so I think that's ultimately why we have those issues, and we could have this same midfield and still be successful if we could send it long and Gabriel Jesus and Saka and Martinelli would fight for those balls, and then we would actually gamble for second balls. But once we're in that flow where the opposition is on us and we're kicking it, what Granit Xhaka and Thomas Partey do is they fall into the back line, and then there's nobody to win second balls anyway. That's kinda how I think about it. Reggie says, "Well, you didn't move to England just to hang with Terry." No, I didn't. I didn't, but, he's part of it as well. Joshua says, "Guys, remember she said a while back she was on All or Nothing." I did say that a while back. Charlie says, "So Jess, are you going to Arsenal games now that you're in the UK?" Kinda talked about that already. Yeah, I will. I will. Um be going to some games. So yeah, that's kind of where I think the game has been lost, and we need if they're gonna, you have to gamble a little bit, and I do think we get kind of scared once we get into that moment where we know we're gonna get pressed in midfield, but we also don't gamble enough to get second balls. So that's kind of where we're at. Um, yeah, you guys message Curtis and say Jessica's been trying to collab and you won't answer. Let him know. Because I would love to do a show with Curtis. I think he's a good content creator. So yeah, let's go ahead and get out of here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Tomorrow is Wednesday, so we'll probably still be talking about, transfers and news and stuff like that. And then on Thursday, we'll actually get into match preview. It's been tons of fun. There's 265 in you guys in here already. So like the video and subscribe to the channel. And I will talk to you guys in the next one.